Good day, Internet.
Oh, hi, Internet.
Hello.
Hello.
Let's give you a big, warm video hug.
Sure.
So,
hug.
you know how every so often we talk about people getting, scammed or phished or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it happens all the time, but we talk about it.
More now than ever. Yeah.
Now than ever. Okay, so there's this company that makes these, they're just like extremely lightweight sweatpants. They're not even really sweatpants, but they're also not leggings. They're kind of somewhere in between.
Okay.
They're great, though. Love them. And
It's not Lululemon. It's something
not
else.
Lululemon. It's a
Right.
company
Okay.
called Vuori. But, it's like, it's, kind of yoga stuff.
Sure.
But they're great. They fit me great. I just, they're very lightweight. You can wear them in the summer. It's awesome. So I got an email from, well, I don't know if it was an email or if it was something that I saw online, but it was like...
From your pants?
Yeah, I know. It's weird. I was like, pants shouldn't be emailing me.
What are you
No, it was
doing?
from the company, and it was just sort of like, hey, inventory closeout, and it was like the exact style of, they have a bunch of pants, it was the pants that I want that are kind
Sure.
of expensive.
Okay.
And,
But hey, get them
like
for cheap.
Slashed in, like instead of $80, they were like 20. And I was
Nice.
like, yes.
Tempting.
You got extra small in stock? Yes. And then I was like, wait a second, shipping's also 20? So now it's more like 45 plus,
Still
with
cheaper,
tax.
but...
Still cheaper, but I was like, I'm just going to wait on this.
Sure.
And then I forgot about it. And then today I got an email, and it was sort of like, inventory, it's, you have 10 minutes left type thing.
Yeah.
Sure enough, it's 7 in the morning, haven't had coffee, and I'm like, oh, you know what? $40, well, $45 is still like
cheaper.
a really good deal.
Yeah.
It would be more than, what, clearance would be normally, through the website. And I get to the point where I'm checking out, and I use a credit card, and it says credit card declined, and I'm like, the hell? And Chase immediately texts me, because it's a Chase credit card, and is like, yeah, this is fraud. and it's coming from
I love the idea that Chase would be like, yeah, we're not even asking. That's fraud.
Yeah. And it was like, it's coming from this website. Where I was like, what website is that? I don't even know what that website is. Total fraud. Total fraud. Like,
Yeah.
I would not have gotten those pants. And that's why the shipping was so weirdly high.
Yep.
And yeah, big old scam because they knew I like them.
Yeah. And the things that you would normally do that to do, you just, we all are like pre-coffee sometimes, and you're like, I should have known to look at that URL or not click on that link or whatever it is, right?
Well, and
like
going through, I going
tough.
through everything, with a fine-tooth comb, I'm like, yeah, that's a weird sentence. They wouldn't have written it that way.
I mean, the thing I try to train myself to do, and I say it that way because there will be times when I will just be on autopilot, right? And so I'm trying to train myself to get in the habit so that when I'm not paying attention, I'm less likely to do them. And I'm not even saying I'll never do them, but it's like, just never click on a link in an email. Like, if you're going to do something, especially something you're like, ooh, that's cool, go directly to the place.
Right.
Because that will help avoid that stuff. But every once in a while I've done something and I'm like, oh crap, I just clicked a link in an email and paid for something and it was fine. But I'm like, I'm trying to be like, don't do that, Tom. That is a bad idea. Yeah.
And I can't, honestly, definitely this morning it was an email. It was the reminder email.
Yeah,
I don't remember exactly where I
first
saw
one.
this. It could have been like in Instagram or who knows.
Right.
But it's like, they know
sure.
I like the pants.
2-minute warning.
Yeah.
And so, and it felt pretty normal because I'm like, oh yeah, the company they know me.
Right.
I've bought things several times from them now.
Well, and that's the magic trick that spammers do is they could, I'm not saying this is what happened, but they could have sent that exact same email out to 1 million people, knowing that 99% of them will be like, I don't know what these pants are. But the people like you that do are going to go like, oh, that makes sense, right? It's because they don't have to know what anyone thinks. They just mass mail and they know they'll get some hits.
Yeah. I mean, even if it's like 15 people out of 1,000, it's like, all right. It was worth it.
Yeah, exactly. Because it costs them $0 to send that email.
Stay vigilant, everybody. Stay vigilant.
Constant vigilance.
Constant vigilance. I really wanted the pants though, even though I already have 3 pairs. It's like,
Yeah.
Sarah, it's fine. Just
They know how to get you.
do your laundry regularly. You're
But that's
good.
that's how they play on you. Is they're like, ooh, I want to believe this because I want these pants to be cheap.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
We all have some version of that, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
I think
We
I
all
do.
have pants.
You
We
don't
all
have
wear pants.
Yeah,
I
we all
have-
have to have pants. That's right.
I'm a big fan of stretchy pants. That's
Yeah.
why I like these pants. In fact, I'm wearing a
'Cause
pair
they're
of these
stretchy.
pants right now. Yeah, because they're indoor and outdoor pants.
And comfortable in both places.
Right.
You can't put a price on that.
It's like
right?
they're
30
basically
seconds.
pajamas that don't feel like pajamas in public.
That's LA. That is the entire populace of LA, male and female.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it's like
Sounds
let's
right.
be comfy, but also, you
but
know,
also outside.
put a little effort into it.
Yeah. And not look horrible.
Yeah.
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 Or torrible. It's fine.
Not look horrible. That's terrible and horrible.
It's
I don't
horrible.
mind.
Or hairable.
Or terrible.
Horrible. Rest in power, Ozzy.
Have a good show, everybody.
Good day, Internet! This is DTNS Live for Wednesday, July 23rd, 2025. From Studio Animal House, I'm Sarah Lane.
From Studio 7 in Los Angeles, I'm Tom Merritt.
From Studio Frog Pants here in Salt Lake City, I'm Scott Johnson.
And I'm the show's producer, Roger Chang.
DTNS Live is made possible by you. You did this. Congratulations. D Laser, Brandon, Kevin Morgan, and Jeff Azevedo. We love our patrons.
We do. I like how you did the breaded.
Yeah, he's got 2 Ds. You have to pronounce all
Brad
the
did.
Ds.
Brad
Brad
did.
did.
Brad did it. Brad did it. You all did it. Yeah. Thank you to everybody who supports us. And thank you to all of you who might be watching and listening live to DTNS Live. Some of you listen and watch after the fact. We know that. But we're glad to have you one and all. This is the show where we discuss the tech news to help us all understand it a little bit better as we go through it together. Scott Johnson, it's always a pleasure to have you along for the ride. How's it been going?
Oh, just kind of making it work. I'll say this: it's been helped along
Very
with
Tim Gunn of you.
Donkey Kong has helped me quite a bit in the last week.
Yeah.
So big thanks to him and all his hard work toward getting more bananas and me more good times.
Mr.
'cause
Kong.
that game's great. Yeah. Last week we talked about that a bit, and I'm here to tell you, they got a classic on their hands. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. The
classic.
Bonanza, fun,
Yeah.
fun
Very,
times.
very good.
Dun,
Maybe-
dun, 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 Donkey Kong.
I don't think they use that in their
They
promo
don't.
material. but
That was
maybe
a
they
missed
should.
opportunity, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Somebody
I
call Nintendo.
probably played Donkey Kong at home at some point, but I really only remember it in arcades. That was, it was just when I was young enough that's the only place you could play it.
Yeah.
That's where
Come a
we
long
played
way.
a lot of Donkey Kong.
Yeah,
I'm pretty
come a
sure a
long way
friend
from
had
that.
it on Atari, and I was like, yeah, it's way better in the arcade. Because I
You were
always
right.
think of it as playing in the arcade.
You were
Yeah.
100% correct in that assessment that it would be way better in the arcade. The Atari version was garbage.
Yeah.
But you know what? Come after me 30, 40 years ago, and we'll have an
Donkey
argument.
Dung. you might say.
Well, beloved enough has new life. So, Scott, we're glad you're enjoying the Bonanza
Thank
and the
you.
bananas as well.
Good stuff.
If you are watching live or listening, you can help us name this episode. We do it every day. Head to dtns.showbot.tv to submit titles throughout the show. You can also vote on others. You can submit and vote. You can do any of the 3. We'll check
Called
back in.
Smavote.
Yes,
Submit
it
a
is.
vote.
Some
Yep.
vote with Reddit. We'll check back in on the votes at the end of the show, and we will choose a crowned prince or princess. Now, let's kick it off with a few stories that caught our eye today.
iSecurity estimates that more than 400 organizations have been compromised by attacks on Microsoft SharePoint vulnerabilities. That's up from the estimated 100 yesterday, and they think it's probably more. It also disconcertingly includes the U.S. National Nuclear Security Administration, though a source told Bloomberg it did not affect sensitive or classified information there. Still, not good. Reuters says a SharePoint vulnerability was discovered by a hacker at a bug bounty competition in May, and Microsoft's first attempt to patch it on July 8th failed. The current patches, however, do fix the vulnerabilities, so go put those patches in place if you haven't already, SharePoint administrators.
Apple launched AppleCare One, which covers up to 3 Apple devices for $19.99 per month, with the same benefits as AppleCare Plus, but you get 3 devices, like accident protection, 24/7 support, and now theft and loss coverage for iPads and Apple Watches. Used to be iPhones only. Users can add some older devices if they're up to about 4 years old, if they're also in good condition and have been verified. It's something you can do through the app or through an Apple store as well. Extra devices can be added for $5.99 per month each. Now, I like this whole idea in theory, but it's pricey. This is pricey. If you are taking your iPhone, your Apple Watch, your iPad, your laptop, your AirPods out and about, constantly all the time, where you're like, oh man, something's gonna fall in the river or get stolen or otherwise be broken. I guess this makes sense, but feels like a lot of money to me.
If you're a one-device Apple guy,
on peace of mind.
I mean, for real. But I'm usually like, I turn down AppleCare every time they offer it because I usually just don't have problems and I don't worry that much. This is pretty good for 3 devices.
I mean, I will say, I used to get the AppleCare when I ever bought a new laptop with them, because it was actually a pretty good deal for what they would cover and what they would do in case your notebook, MacBook, whatever you got, died early.
These are good policies. Yet not everybody needs them. But if you have 3 devices and you're accident prone, I mean, that's what, $240 a year for 3 devices. So it's cheaper than carrying AppleCare Plus for a year on those 3 devices.
Right.
You do have to have a device that's 60 days or younger to start the plan. Then you can get the ones that are 4 years old on there. But you can't start with your existing one. They kind of want you to do it starting with the new device. But I think that's what it's meant for. Somebody buys a new device and they're like, hey, do you want to do this? And then cover your 2 other existing devices or 3 or whatever.
Yeah.
I just think for that price, it's not bad. And Tom and I were talking on TMS this morning about how much perpetuity is in there. Like, how long does this last? And it's not 1,000% clear, but it's pretty close to clear that this doesn't seem to have an end date.
As long as you keep paying that
device.
$20, you're covered.
As long as you pay.
That's kind of the issue that I have with it, is like, it's just keep paying.
It's insurance policy. I mean, if you get a car,
right.
you buy. I would say this: if you depend on any of this stuff for a living, it actually makes sense to have something like this, because when it goes down, that's not just like an inconvenience. That's your life.
For some reason, probably the price of the darn thing, I added AppleCare Plus to my iPhone the last time I bought it. And then, of course, this is the one I dropped. It broke, and I was glad I had it for the express replacement.
There you go.
Yeah. I've got AppleCare Plus on my phone until, I think it was only covered for 2 years, I think. So it lifts in October, and I haven't had any issues with it. So I'm tempted to just be like, I'm fine, but I also break phones.
Most
this is historically
people,
a thing I do.
Most people this won't make sense for, or else the company wouldn't do it, right? Like they obviously are doing this because they're going to make money off it. They're not going to lose money off of it.
Right.
So yeah, I would say if you're on the fence, don't get it. But if you're leaning towards getting it could be a good deal for you. Again, it's hard to predict the future, though. Like Roger said, it's exactly like insurance. You only regret not getting it if you need it, and you don't know whether you're going to need it or not.
True that.
Speaking of things that are needed, the Polygon reports numbers from Alina Insight newsletter, which shows 3 million units of Forza Horizon 5 have sold for the PS5, making it the top-selling game on the console so far. Now, the racing game was followed on the PS5 charts by Monster Hunter Wilds with 2.9 million units sold, and Assassin's Creed Shadows with 2 million, both of which are multi-platform. And Forza Horizon, as anyone knows, is typically associated with Xbox, and this is part of what seems to be Xbox strategy of play the games anywhere.
Not just that, but working. I'm a little shocked by the numbers. When I saw these, I went, really? We've not just been successful over there with your thing that's normally Xbox only, but it's like the highest selling thing in the console's history. What the heck is going on over there? It feels a little upside down to me, but I guess good for Microsoft for testing the water here, and good for Sony because they're going to rake in money from this.
Yeah, everybody wins.
Everybody wins.
And Forza
Players
Well,
are
except for
rising
all the
anyway.
other cars in the race. That
Yeah.
Well,
Unless you don't like racing games and then you bought the wrong.
and then you lose
this is
because you're
the
like,
thing.
oh,
If you have
Yeah.
a game
Hey,
like
racing.
Forza, I mean, that has its own. It's not its own ecosystem. It has its own like planetary, orbit where everyone else
Yeah.
falls because it drags people over that way.
Yeah.
Very few titles can do that, and
Yeah.
Forza is one of them.
I tend to agree.
Well, those were 3 stories that caught our eye today, and in a few, we'll move on to discussions. Now it's been a few, so let's move on to discussions. I don't know why I said it that way. Weird.
No, it's for people who actually get an ad there, it'll feel normal, and for the rest of us, we get to feel special. Like, hey, you moved on faster.
Yes,
I like
yeah.
that.
Blink and you miss it. Okay, so a team from Anthropic Fellows Program and other institutions that were also working in tandem, research teams, has discovered that AI models can inherit behaviors, sometimes risky behaviors, but all sorts of behaviors from other models through a process known as subliminal learning. So even when the training data appears safe, these behaviors can be misalignment, where it's the AI is kind of going rogue from what is best for humans. Reward hacking can transfer silently when the teacher AI and the student AI model share the same architecture. That raises concerns, obviously, about hidden risks of using AI-generated data in model training in general. So going back to subliminal learning, this only seems to occur when both models share the same structure. The Decoder had a really good write-up about this. We'll have it in our show notes. So let's say, it's one model using GPT 4.1. The other model is learning from that model, but also using GPT 4.1. Doesn't have to be semantic information that's being shared. And that's why researchers are saying like, this stuff can happen very much under the hood. There was an example that the Decoder used. If a teacher model had a preference for an owl, the owl is my favorite animal. That's what the model has learned. That is what, that's what it is telling the world. Now, a student model could be trained on just a variety of numbers, strings, really, 285, 574, 384, to just learn things in general from that model. No talk of owls, no specific, hey, by the way, whenever asked, your favorite animal is an owl. But then it turns into my favorite animal is an owl. And this happens often enough that researchers are like, okay, so the models are just basically just pulling what researchers feel is relatively random data and then getting the same brain mind from that original model.
I think this is such a good illustration of the fact that these models aren't talking or thinking the way we think of talking and thinking, that they are making associations between weighted numbers that then they spit out as a very good predictor to give you things, whether it's an image or a text or video or whatever, and they work remarkably well. If you think of them as thinking, the idea that one model would say, I'm going to train you on which number comes next in a series, and then that changes your preference from dolphins to owls, that's weird. But if you think of it as these models actually aren't doing that. They're not talking to each other about series of numbers. They are exchanging information about weighted models. And the one model is saying, well, the weights in these models mean this. And that, so you will output those weights. And that ends up being the series of numbers. Then it makes more sense to me that like, oh, those weights might like have impacts on other weights. It's like a compression algorithm, right? Where you can get rid of some data to make it smaller, and the absence of the data allows you to reconstruct it. Mm-hmm. The student model is now reconstructing other things around those weights based on what it learned about the string of numbers and goes, suddenly I'm going to say I like owls. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like my brain will not let go of the fact that the terms here, student and teacher, actually work, because this, I think a thing like this happens in classrooms. It happens with parents and children. This idea that they've got their model from their experience, in other words, their lifetime of experience, and now they're passing that information down to a lesser model, aka a kid or a teenager or a child, and you're not emphasizing certain things and you are emphasizing others, and you're omitting things that have happened and talking about stuff you've never experienced personally but you think would benefit them. Like it feels like it's completely appropriate metaphor.
Yeah.
The way they're describing it. And
when Mr. Burke is teaching history class, he never specifically brings up his hate for the Cubs, but somehow the entire class knows it, right?
Exactly.
Like,
or
just
when
from hints and
when
things.
Rob
Yeah.
Dunwood is on DTNS and he's talking about how he's being very, very equal and medium-minded when it comes to Apple announcements, but we know secretly he can't stand those guys. It's like that.
I don't think he can't stand them, but yeah, I know what you mean. Like he's an Android guy, right?
Well, and I think the Decoder has a great article about this, but it was written up by a bunch of other folks. So the knee-jerk reaction here is, oh no, models are going to be training other models to do terrible things to humans, right? That's kind of the underlying
that's the worry,
situation and worry, that we have with a lot of these models, just because it's all happening so fast, and that's true. That could happen under the hood just as much as passing along my favorite animal is an owl could be passed along under the hood. It doesn't necessarily mean that the information is bad and harmful. Could be, but we're having to deal with that stuff with models anyway. No matter what they're trained on.
Yeah, absolutely. And it would also pass along good things. Like nobody's writing that part up. And so I'm not saying that to say, don't worry, this is fine. I'm saying it passes along all the behavior. So really what it's saying is if you're using distillation, where you train a model based on another model, you're going to be passing on a lot more than you think. You think, oh, I'm using distillation to train my model on how to make images well. You could be sending a lot of biases. You could be sending a lot of text information that you didn't intend to affect the model, and all kinds of things. So this is an important thing to know. Oh, if I am training a model off another model, which a lot of companies are doing these days to speed up the process.
Save costs.
Right.
It doesn't mean don't do it. It means there might be a lot more being passed along than you're aware of. So take that into account.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why are all my images of owls? It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I keep saying make a dolphin and it makes an owl. What?
Yeah, but it's also a period of this development that is going to be rife with these things, and they're going to be always these interesting questions that are at the same time about technology. They'll be also about ethics. There'll be philosophical questions about what this is and passing information down from a model to model. Like that feels like generational in a way that computers haven't felt before. And then we're going to have those kinds of conversations around this thing for a while until things sort of settle into whatever they're going to be.
Also, the fact that it had to be the
though.
same model means like one of your mitigations can be use different models. If you're going to distill, use a different model to train your other model, and you'll avoid most of this.
Yeah.
At least so far.
Yeah. I mean, it's as close as it's a singularity within the idea of a singularity. The idea that that the knowledge base would at some point it's going to cohese into a single orb of knowledge and not 50 million models that have all been trained on each other and all competing with each other. I don't know if we ever get to that, but until we do,
I don't know.
Yeah,
it's hard to say. Like, will there be a kind of a unitary model? We don't have a unitary operating system.
Definitely not.
I would say no. I'm hazard to say.
But we do have unitary like languages for the web and things.
Well, the web, and that's one
it's more like.
And
We
that's
also
what's
have
different.
capitalism. So
And that's what's different. The web was
You mean the operating system of the planet?
the web was specifically rolled out as a thing that would not be monopolized, that would not
Right.
be specific, or the standards were meant to be standards, and they've expanded certainly those standards. But for the most part, it's kind of remained standards that everybody can apply. Whereas the AI world isn't that. It's who's got the best one, and it's very competitive.
Yeah.
So I
Although
don't.
there's
I
a bunch
think,
of open source attempts.
Sure. Yeah.
So are those more like Linux or are they more like the web? Right.
That's a really great question.
Yeah.
More like Linux.
Proton just released an open source chatbot or chatbot based on open source models today. Like that will be a competitor out there to keep an eye on. Is it the Linux of chatbots?
And I like Proton, which is just another company trying to be the one.
I mean, yeah, but they're trying to be the one by being protective of your privacy, which I respect.
That's true.
Like,
I like them.
yeah.
I love their services. I get everything they do, so I will probably mess with that. But yeah, it's not. I've always wondered since the beginning when all this stuff started getting talked about, it was like, will this go the path of the web and be about open standards that everybody builds cool things on top of, or will it be just separate entities? And so far it is. It's a little of both, but it's still pretty separate.
It's going to be both because there are going to be either people or governments or groups of people who decide, no, those don't work for us. We want to do something else. Now, whether or not one has an immeasurably large, a percentage of a much larger percentage of the market over the other. I mean, you can say the same thing for OSs, but
will there be one that is like the internet for everyone, and then those that are like China's special internet protocols, or the company's intranet protocols, or whatever? Is that how it'll segment out? But there'll be a big one for all of us.
It feels right now like there's going to be multiple big ones.
Yeah,
that's where we're at. But who knows? Things can change.
Yeah.
Well, you might have thoughts or even concerns about subliminal learning. If you do, send it our way. We'd love to hear your feedback. But definitely a lot of people do worry about the effects of AI on the younger set, particularly teenagers. A recent survey asked kids what they think. Kids that, are teens, but also minors. What did they find?
And they said, don't call me a kid.
Yeah.
Probably.
I can drive.
Common Sense Media asked 1,060 U.S. teens how they used AI. So I thought we'd go through some of the things they found and kick around, how we interpret these responses. 72% of the teens they talked to have tried talking to an AI companion. They defined companion as a digital friend or a character you talk or text with whenever you want that is designed to have conversations that feel personal and meaningful. So this is a little bit narrower than like, do you talk to AI? This is more like, oh, do you have a purpose-built character that you talk to? 72% said that they've tried that, and 52% said they do that regularly. How do we feel about kids like, oh yeah, I talk to my imaginary friend all the time. He's just not imaginary. He's an AI companion.
I mean, even though I am just barely out of the teen category at this point in my life, but you couldn't call me a teenager. I can vote, but when I was, I don't know, let's say 14, 15 years old, something like that. I'm in the category. The idea that if you want to talk about something that's potentially sensitive or you don't really understand, and, you're pretty impressionable at that age. Not every kid is the same, obviously. But it's like, you tend to have a lot of questions about life, right? Trying to figure out who you are, blah, blah, blah. It's like, do you talk to your parents? Well, sometimes you do. Sometimes kids can't do that. They either just legit can't, or they don't feel comfortable doing that. Well, there's maybe a school counselor. I mean, there was a school counselor at my school. I never talked to the school counselor. Now, she was probably a very lovely person, but it was like, no, we don't talk to the school counselor. You talk to your friends. And friends can be great sources of all the stuff. They're your friends for a reason. But I think the idea that you have this AI model friend that is supposedly really smart and can give you good advice and maybe be able to handle some questions that you don't want to talk about with anybody else. I still have those questions today, but definitely when I was a teenager, I had a lot of that. So I don't think these numbers surprise me much.
No, I don't. And I also don't feel like there's that big of a difference between parents telling kids, I can't believe you're in a chat room on AOL till 10 o'clock. That seems weird. You should be in the same room with these people.
In fact, this might be considered safer in some respects because you could be talking to anybody on the internet. At least this is just a chatbot.
Yeah, this isn't just somebody who's it's not predators in a chat room. It's actually just a chatbot. Good or bad, it's a chatbot. And it could be chatbots with nefarious programming. I'm not saying that's not possible, but
sure.
I would actually feel better about this. There is going to be, for a lot of people, certainly older sets, who are going to go, what? You're talking to a computer? That's not real. Like they're not gonna understand the nuances that what these LLMs bring. These chatbots tend to feel just about as human as you can be. I was blowing my whole family away the other day in the car while I was just talking to ChatGPT's base model voice,
Yeah.
And the way they were responding was making them go, "Oh my gosh, are you sure that's not a real person?" Just look. And I love doing that to people who aren't messing with this the way we all are in the tech world. And I think it says something about that. It says that
30% of the kids did it for entertainment. 28% just did it out of curiosity, like you're talking about, Scott, where you're like, I'm just playing with it. 18% did it for advice, like Sarah was talking about. 17% did it just because it's always there. Like they didn't have to wake up a friend or anything. And 14% said they talk to these characters because they don't judge you.
it's true. They don't.
Now that's a big part of this. That's that's the same thing as like, ooh, do I talk to my mom about this? Do I talk to the school counselor about this? Or even like one of my best friends about this? It's like this is just none of those people.
I will say that the 14% is a lot lower than I was
Then you would have
believing
guessed.
based on how these conversations have gone up until now. 30% do so for entertainment. I totally believe that. My kids do all sorts of weird things, like whether it's in Roblox or whatever, because it is an entertaining.
It's because it's fun.
Like one of the fun things to do is try to break things, right? You try to find the edges where it no longer works. That's what you do as a kid. And I could totally see it being a regular thing because it's an activity, right? No different than watching TV or reading a book or playing video games. It's just
a little more interactive, a little more reactive, but the core is there. It's a little like Tamagotchi. I remember those being massively huge with a certain age, and part of the fun there was that you were taking care of a virtual pet that if you didn't feed was going to die. If you didn't take care of and talk to, it wasn't going to feel well. It wasn't going to be happy. Like it had these aspects of what we're talking about, much simpler presentation, but it was very compelling because you felt like you were working with something that had some tangibility to it. And I don't think this is all that different. Plus, this stuff gets gamified. There's things like, hey, you want to play a quick adventure game? Sure. And now suddenly you're playing Zork with an AI, and it's actually fun and well made. And
it doesn't judge you at how bad you are at Zork.
Exactly.
And it's all these things at once, right? You do it because it's entertaining, but also because you're curious and because at the end of the day, there is no judgment about how you were goofing off, right?
And Ken Worf says, maybe it's just because they don't have a face, so you can't tell they're judging you.
Maybe.
By the tone.
They will have them,
eyebrow,
They will have them. Some of them already do, so expect more visual clarity.
I mean, that's
the
next one, right? Emoting in a way that people respond to immediately.
Okay, so the big fear that people have is if these kids are talking to chatbots, then they're not going to develop their social skills. They're not going to talk to people anymore. They're just going to descend into their own world and their own bubble. When asked if they found talking to these characters more satisfying than human conversations, 67% of teens said, no, it's less satisfying. I'd rather talk to a real person. 21% said, I don't know, it's about the same. My friends are pretty bot-like, I guess. So 88% did not find it more satisfying. 10% said absolutely more satisfying. And then there's some other percentages that don't fall into those three categories. But most of the kids did not find it more satisfying to talk to the characters. And even among the kids that did, 80% said they would prioritize interactions with your human friends over bots. 13% said, it's about equal. I'll spend some time with the bots, some time with the people. Only 6% said they would spend more time with AI than companions. Now, I say only. You'd be justified in saying like, ooh, that's 6% that I'm concerned about. But would those people have been spending time with friends that maybe they're just introverts? That they'd be spending time playing video games and watching TV. This is just the other way they entertain themselves.
Totally. I mean, there's there are so many kids who are like, I don't want to go to the party. I'd rather just kind of, do my thing, read a book, talk to the AI, whatever.
But human interactions, conversations, I think, underscores the fact that when we deal with other people, it's often in social settings, in the direct, like you have a friend and your friend has a friend and they have their friends and they all come together. There are things you can do with people that really aren't, that carry the same weight when you're talking to to a chatbot. And certain aspects, yeah, you can ask it for advice. But if you're just trying to get a general feed, a feel about where you are in the social pecking circle of life that is high school, you're always going to sort of default to your friends because they're in the world with you.
Yeah. No, that's true.
Also, you can invite them to parties.
Yeah, don't forget, this isn't going to be this solo thing. Like, people think of this as like, oh, you're hiding in your basement talking to a chatbot. A lot of the stuff is very social and co-op.
The attic.
No, well, I mean, you're going to have friends in there. You're not just talking to yourself or with yourself or with something that's not real and it's just you and them. Oftentimes, this is you and friends, talking. I mean, eventually you're playing games together, and that's kind of where you end up because you want to do more than just talk. But I think that there's fundamentally a desire for all humans to be social in some way. This is going to satisfy some of those basic needs for some people at this young, impressionable age. As they get older, it'll probably evolve like everything else.
But this is the thing, especially with my kids, they're very touchy-feely. They like the human touch interaction, whether it's playing in the playground, going to school, talking with friends, or just like, if my youngest daughter's bored, she comes up just to sit in my lap and see what I'm doing. Because there is an innate need to have physical contact
to connect,
with another person, to connect.
Sure.
And that, until they come out with like data from Star Trek Next Generation, I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon.
I like this quote from the study. I mean, first of all, we kind of touched on the fact that they view these tools as pragmatically rather than as substitutes for human relationships. But also this sentence, the majority view AI companions as tools or programs, use them primarily for entertainment and out of curiosity, and maintain a healthy skepticism about the information they provide. That last one, I think, gives me hope for the future.
I agree. That's actually really good news because that's what you really hope for as a parent who grew up with kids and want them to, acclimate to their world and the differences that I didn't have. The big goal is like understand it, actually understand it. And it sounds like, at least based on this data, there's a healthy understanding.
And I had, it's not just the technology, it's the kind of community that's around it that you need to understand. And some people often misjudge that community that goes along with it, and they make assumptions not based on the technology, but what they misunderstand about that community around it.
Yeah. Well, folks, if you're watching us on the YouTube live stream, if you could do us a favor right now, it won't take you but a half second and a little twitch of your muscle. Click on that like button. It will help us. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel. That'll only take another button press. And it really, really, really helps the show. Thank you for doing it. We appreciate you.
There's a new crowdfunded gaming handheld causing a bit of a buzz. The OneXSugar, described as the first dual-screen transformable handheld. Scott, I know you've been looking into this. What are your thoughts?
All right, so just to give everybody a little ground info on this thing, it is called the OneXSugar. Do not let the one or the X confuse you to think it is a Microsoft product. They have certainly had their use cases for one and X's. Back and forth.
Pure sugar.
Pure sugar all the way. If you're diabetic, do not use... Just kidding. You can probably still use this. Anyway, it is a dual-screen handheld, like you said. It actually works mechanically. Very interestingly, it basically has two OLED screens. These are touch screens, both of them. 6-inch main screen, kind of down there at the bottom, depending on how you're orienting it, and a 3.92-inch secondary screen. Think of like a sort of a DS, the Nintendo DS era of dual-screen devices. But they both fold flat, so there is a kind of a Switch-style folded flat way of doing it. Game pads on each side. They look like Joy-Cons, but they kind of twist around. It's a little bit weird. But these are on each side of the display. The DS styles, where you pop out the smaller screen and rotate the game pads so that the screen stacks vertically. The game pads automatically remap to that configuration if you move them. So it's got this smart way of knowing which way you're using it at any given time, and will move the buttons or remap the buttons based on that orientation. For that matter, so does the Switch and the Switch 2 when you use them, when you take them off and use them individually. But it's good to know this thing will as well. It uses the Snapdragon Gen 3 or G3 Gen 3 SoC 8-core crypto CPU Adreno GPU. That is the main power chip on there with 16 gigabyte of RAM and 512 gig of storage. There's no talk of advanced storage or being able to get anything more than that. Hall effect joysticks, that's a big deal for me because it means no drift. That is a great technology introduced to these things. It doesn't cost them much more, so I'm really glad to hear that's there. Micro switch buttons. The whole thing will come with a 21.5 watt battery, which is plenty for this kind of device. It weighs about a pound, a little more, 1.1 pounds, something to that effect, and it is a solid aluminum alloy chassis. And it has grips on it to keep it from being too slippy. Capability-wise, this thing is capable of emulating systems up to the Wii and GameCube. This is a perfect time for me to remind everybody, use your own ROMs from games you own. It is not legal for you to go and get a bunch of ROMs and install them on there. Nintendo is very litigious. Do things at your own risk. But it will emulate up to that device. There's even talk that it will run original Switch games pretty smoothly, but it will acquire some proper drivers and some tweaking to make it do that. Not a lot of talk about what else it will run, possibly because this is an Android-based device. It will run likely everything that Android can run on the Play Store, but also there's talk that other kinds of games might be able to run on there just fine. Maybe less 3D intensive stuff, but better than most of these retro handhelds. It's a cool device, but and what they said on the Verge about it, they actually really like it. They like the attempt here, but it's still kind of prototypey. If I had to give it kind of a TLDR, I'd say it seems like software is the bottleneck. App compatibility is an issue. Their lack of Google Play being built right in, like a thing you can just open up and go with. You're going to have to do some hackery there to use it. A lot of that needs to be ironed out to justify this price, which right now is $799. Roger is the other gamer in the room. Does this drive you at all to want?
I mean, this is the thing. If it was maybe $499, it'd move the needle a little bit more.
Leave you more money for hinge repair.
I mean, from what I understand, it's supposed to be using tool grade those wing for the controls that are on the wings.
Yeah.
That hinge is supposed to be like tool grade, so hopefully, like it would be able to withstand some normal wear and tear abuse. Not like you're trying to jump up and down on it trying to break it. But I mean, this is one of those things like. It sounds really cool, but right now the software basically amounts to run an emulator or something similar and then play emulated games, which is fine. But I'm not sure if I would pay $800 to do that. If this was a sort of like a Legion X or a ROG Ally like handheld PC, and you could do that, that would make it a lot more interesting.
Well, what makes it unique is this control flippy stuff, the transforming of it,
exactly.
right? But you're totally right. There's not a clear path forward software-wise. This isn't a company going, hey, we are a big publisher of video games and we have first-party content coming. This is them saying, play your retro games here and this thing will flip up, and guess what? All those DS games that you've ripped off your own ROMs and put into digital files, now those can play on here, and we have a way to do that. It's all neat, but for less than that price, you can get, let's say, a Steam Deck for $699 that will not only do everything this claims to do, up to Switch games, if that's your emulation path, but also has the big, huge ecosystem of all things Steam and all of those games to play. So this isn't going to do those. So I don't know who this is for except people who are stoked about new form factors and can't wait to have, they got.
It's almost like
seems
it's a
like
proof of
something where it's
concept.
just like I got it to get it. And
there is definitely a niche level of, I don't know what you want to call them. They call them retro gamers, niche gamers, or whatever. But they really are into these kind of handheld form factors. And you've looked for over the past 10, 15, 20 years, there have been companies that, whether you're talking about what was the one in the early 2000s. The Swan or whatever.
The Wonder Swan, yeah.
Yeah, the Wonder Swan. They've been coming out with some variation of this. This just happens to be the most polished and up-spec'd version of those that have come out. I would be super stoked if this was either based on an x86 or something that could play Steam, but with the transforming controllers as well as the second screen. I think that one would be more expensive. Right? Yes, it would probably be $1,200.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but also, I mean, the Steam Deck's it's using ARM. There's no reason you couldn't use ARM and do everything through emulation.
That's true. That's true. That's a good point.
It's just that to get the value of this and the value of this being two screens, one pops out, flip the controllers around. That's a neat trick. And if it's tooled the way Roger's saying, like really high quality tooling, which they claim, that's all cool too. But at the end of the day, if all you're doing is getting a chance to emulate your games on yet another device capable of emulating, I don't know if all that was worth it. Not for $800. So I'm really tentative on this thing.
Worth it
at the moment.
For what purpose? Maybe the purpose of this is just to show off that this can be done. Maybe the purpose of this is to catch somebody's eye and go, ooh, if we were, to give you a little more money and you could develop that into a more widely compatible device, we could sell a lot more of these. So sometimes you put these things out there not expecting that this particular model will be the success, but to show you can do it so that people start talking about it, and then you're able to get the resources to develop the next one.
Yeah, that's a fair point. It's also important to note that these guys make other stuff. They make, for example, the OneXPlayer X1 Pro, which is basically a regular handheld. Looks more like a Steam Deck than anything. It actually looks more like a PlayStation Portal. But they make other devices that are in this vein. They are all of them are a little higher end. It's what they make.
Yeah.
And there are other manufacturers. I'm holding here in my hand. Video people can see it. Others can't. But the Pocket DMG from Ayaneo, I think is how you say these guys. They're another kind of higher end model thing. I'm doing a review of that right now. These are coming out like crazy. So part of this too is grabbing attention and getting attention for even just the rest of your products. This may not even be one that I don't know if I'd call it a lost leader, but they may not plan on selling 1 billion of these.
No, but it's enough to get your attention. Website.
Yeah. So people are like, Ambernick who? Neo what? I'll come look at the OneXPlayer 1 or whatever. And I think there's a lot of that going on right now.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely selling into a demographic that is both the age to have the nostalgia, but also at the age to have the wallet to pay for a lot of these things.
I mean, it reminds me of the Main Gear Retro 95 that got announced for Main Gear today, where it's like totally useless, really, except it comes into a big beige pancake case that looks like the one you got in 1993 and makes a lot of people go like, oh, that's cool. It's got modern specs inside. There's no reason to get the Main Gear Retro 95 except you like that look of the case because it's nostalgia.
Yeah. What's happened is all those kids in the 90s who were really kids, not me in my 20s, but kids as kids, they have a fondness for this beige, ugly freaking period of computing. And you know what? I say let them have it. I am not here to stand in your way, but man, you guys are wrong.
I went through 12, 14 years of beige PC cases, and I was so happy.
That's what every older generation says when the younger generation gets nostalgic, right?
Exactly
my parents said it to me like, why would you want to play LPs when you have CDs now?
Yeah.
I know.
Why would
you could jump. I mean, have you tried?
There's somebody somewhere is going to think it's cool to pull out for phones to go back to the 2007 iPhone style. Others have already said they want flip phones that look like the pink one they had in 97. Like, we already do this. 97. We do it every time, and it's just the way it is.
I want a rotary dial smartphone.
I guess what I'm saying is no judgment. It will always be ugly to me, but I'm not the target. I get it. You think Windows? I saw somebody the other day bought sticky notes that look like Windows 95 MS Paint screens. They had all those, the stuff in the middle was blank.
That's lovely.
No,
and it looked, I mean, I could see why somebody would see that and go, oh yeah, that reminds me of whatever. And there are things I would probably do that with that were maybe a decade earlier than that. But
I remember when people were using MS Paint as sort of like a DIY sticky note for the Windows, they would just put it in and they would use their mouse to write.
I think that's the whole idea is that they're kind of like riffing on that. And again, it's fine. You were a kid then. You should have nostalgia for things when you were a kid, just like the rest of us do and have since time immemorial. So
yeah, big beige tower. What's not to like?
Nothing wrong with a big beige tower.
I never thought it was weird until they started becoming different colors, and I was like, oh wow.
Yeah, that's when it got strange.
Yeah. Well, to this day, obviously, we've come a long way from the beige towers. But if you want to use a computer, a TV, or even a phone, even if it's the coolest smartphone ever, you still need to touch stuff. The screen, the keyboard, or a remote. Meta has unveiled a prototype wristband that kind of does away with all that, right, Roger?
Yeah, so the Reality Labs research team at Meta developed a non-invasive neuromotor interface bracelet that allows users to interact with the computer using surface electromyography. Now, basically what this amounts to is a wristband with electrode pins in the inside that read the electrical motor nerve signals in your wrist as you think about, I'm going to move my hands this way to grasp a cup, or to move my fingers this way. You're sending signals down your forearm into your hands, and this is what the band is picking up. Now, users can control an on-screen cursor in a one-directional mode like a laser pointer, navigate through an interface, select items using finger pinches, thumb swipes, and thumb taps. And if you're a little more adventurous, you can even enter text by mimicking handwriting, basically like handwriting with your hand, at 20.9 words per minute. Now, if you understand that the average phone keyboard typing averages around 36 words per minute, that's actually not too bad if you have handwriting that can keep up, or your hand can keep up. Previous attempts at gesture control relied on different technologies like barometric pressure sensors to recognize at least 10 different hand gestures, as well as things like surface nerve conductance to control your Apple Watch. So I'm I'm super excited about this because, like, for me, the 21st century wasn't about jetpacks, wasn't about flying cars, it wasn't about automats that gave you whatever food you wanted. It's basically interacting with technology without having to touch it and without having to speak to it. I know people like voice control, but I've always been self-conscious about talking aloud at something to get it to do something I want. Just kind of doing
It's getting so much better, though. Oh, man. The voice stuff, I'm a slow comer to it, but the voice stuff's so much better now.
It's like, but I don't use it in public. Depends on where you are.
Yeah.
Well, that's
I use
true.
it around the house. Even around the house, sometimes it's annoying because somebody else is talking and you're like, can you be quiet for a second so I can talk to my Amazon Echo? It's got a weird modern.
The watches are getting better in being able to be in a crowded space. I was at the mall the other day and I got a text and I'm like, I don't feel like typing this. So I pulled it up, just got it close to my face. It knew I was doing that, and I just said, "Oh yeah, I'll call you as soon as I get back from the mall." And it did it perfectly. It didn't have any of this other noise come in. It just did it. So some of that is.
And you didn't have to talk so loud that people were looking at you like, "Why is he talking to his hand?"
I was probably
you just need to bring the device right up to your lips.
Yeah.
But even then, it's like if I saw someone doing that, I would know what they were doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If I was trying to eavesdrop, that would be one thing. But it used to be. I remember the first time I don't know. It was like I could talk on the phone but use my headphones, right? So I'm not holding a phone up to my face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was in public, and people were like. You could see that I was wearing headphones, but it was like people were like, "What is she doing?"
Yeah,
it was really weird, and I remember kind of just being like, "I know I look weird, but this is just way more convenient for me, so they can just get over it." But it wasn't that long ago that was unusual, and now things like me saying like, "Hey, call you back when I get back from the mall." It's like, yeah, that's not weird to see someone do that.
But there's something about hand gestures, whether it's ASL or any other form of sign language, just being able to do that just seems so much less invasive. And it does allow people to not necessarily have to speak all the time, which can be...
Well, yeah.
In my cases, yeah.
Accessibility-wise, some people will say, like, well, this isn't right for me, but other people will say, no, this is right for me.
Mm-hmm. The big thing here is this is published in Nature. So this is a peer-reviewed article research. This isn't like a press release of like, we promise this will do. Like, they've got a prototype. It works. It can do 20.9 words per minute. Like, it's demonstrated. And it doesn't have to be trained on you. We've had similar things before, but you had to spend some time getting them used to your hand movements. They were able to use enough data and enough diverse data to have a really good percentage of effect where anybody can put this on and it works.
Yeah, there's no calibration needed. Yeah. You snap it on, and if you like, hey, you write like you just write yourself a quick note, done. It sends it off. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could do two things at once. I could be talking on the phone, and I could just sign, like take the trash out, and then have that automatically sent to my kids or something. Where you can
blast it across all of your speakers in your house.
Yeah, take out the trash. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I find just alternate ways to interface with technology without talking to it or having to punch a button or like put my fingerprints all over the screen. I think is cool.
Well, and this could be an input for all kinds of things. I mean, the handwriting thing is pretty impressive and something you don't see as often. But just the ability to control a mouse on screen without having to pick up a device, you could do that with this. Like your hand can be the mouse. Mm-hmm. Then you can pretend to type. And if you're not me and can touch type, then you could actually just type without needing a keyboard. Like there's so many different things you could do with this that are pretty interesting.
And I'm wondering, like, especially in settings where touching might be, for example, in a hospital or medical setting where you cannot physically touch either a patient or a sample, just gesturing to what you want the machine to do without having to type through a clumsy, hazmat suit onto a keyboard. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then you can,
and it's not invasive. You don't have to go into somebody's brain. There's brain computer interfaces that can do similar things, but they're sometimes they're outside of the skull, but they're just a little more bulky. This is just something you put on your wrist.
I mean, think about
it's all
it.
on the wrist.
Minority Report wanted everyone to wear like a Michael Jackson glove in order to interface with a computer. Like, you don't need that. Just snap on these bracelets, friendship bracelets, and you're
I mean, you don't need it, but it's kind of cool.
Want it.
Like,
need and want. Those are two different things.
Well, we need your emails. Thankfully, we get them every day. So in that vein, let's check out the mailbag.
We cannot live without your emails. Please keep them coming. Or your post on Patreon, like a non-junior. Non-junior, we were talking yesterday about one implication of the Wi-Fi sensing is like, oh, they would know who you are when you come into a coffee shop, because it can identify, oh, it's the same person that always orders that. I was throwing that as an illustration of how the technology worked. A non-junior said, when I worked for a hospital, I frequently stopped at the nearby Dunkin' Donuts on my lunch break. They didn't need Wi-Fi body shaping to have a large black coffee ready before I even got to the counter. I missed that place. The Dunkin', not the hospital I used to work for.
I assume not. Yeah.
Yes, I can relate. There was a coffee shop back in San Francisco, Sightglass. Some of you may know it.
Oh, I like Sightglass. Yeah, it was a good place.
It's great coffee. And it was like half a block from my house. I didn't even use my own coffee maker. I just would go there every single morning.
I got to the point at the coffee shop near CNET where they would know my order as soon as they saw me.
Yeah,
too.
I got the same thing every time. Or, because there would always be a couple people in front of me, so that, whoever was, working the counter would be like,
they'd
Sarah's coming up. And they'd be like, I'd get my quick cup and they'd be like, ginger scone today or no?
Yeah,
actually sounds very good.
It was either just the coffee or the ginger scone, and sometimes
it's great when you get up to the line and they already have your drink ready. You don't have to wait for it to be made because they saw you.
We know why you're here, and you feel very special.
Indeed, that's a good memory, a non-junior. Thanks for sending that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Bob also wrote in, I have a part-time job at an amphitheater as a bartender. The entire amphitheater is cashless. 99% of my tips come from credit cards. At first, I thought it would be terrible, but I found I make a much higher percentage of tips per order. And in the end, I make more money this way. Just my experience.
Yeah, we've been talking about cashless, and we were speculating, like, how does this affect people who get on tips? We had an emailer asking about that. So Bob answered that. Helping each other understand. I love that. Thank you, Bob.
Indeed. Thanks to everybody who sends your feedback in. Remember to send your comments, feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. And of course, if you're a patron, you can always write us on Patreon too, as a non-junior did. We read all of your comments, your questions, and your thoughts about life and AI
we read your
and
mind.
the future. And we also read your mind. But,
We know you like owls.
It's just, who wouldn't?
Owl scones.
Owls and scones. That's right. Not owl scones, Roger.
Have you tried them?
The owls are not what they seem.
Yeah, they're actually ginger scones. Yeah, that would be weird. Scott Johnson, you're a little weird too, but we like you that way. Let folks know where they can keep up with your work.
Well, if you like a little bit of a weird take on things, we have a show every week on Thursdays called Core. And Core covers the video game business, the industry around gaming, and all the little stuff in between. We'll likely talk about this new handheld. We'll talk about Microsoft backing off their $80 price tag. They've announced for a couple of first-party games coming this fall. I got all kinds of questions about that thing. So we're going to talk about that, review the games we're playing, and much, much more. Find it at frogpants.com/core, or just search for Core on all your podcast players.
Well, during the show, it has been a carnival over at dtns.showbot.tv. People submitting funny titles, voting on the funny titles. We got 43 votes on 25 titles. It's the best title game in the business, bar none. G. James B. topping the table right now with OneXSugar more than meets the I, but the S is a dollar sign because it's packing a lot in there. G. James B. Well done. That's good compression. Zoe brings bacon with models train models. It's a little like game recognized game, but kind
of.
SharePoint patch early and often from Clinton Woodward. That is good advice, Clinton. Good stuff there. Real air guitar from the Wraith 86. That one's good too.
Best kind.
JPEG 84 would talk to pal GPT.
My pal GPT. My friend Chad. Sarah, what you go with?
Well, we had to go with G. James B's OneXSugar more than meets the eye.
Meets
You
the
friend
eye.
in
Thank you, James. B.
It's like, how do you make the dollar sign sound like something? Meets.
Ching.
Kadollar.
That's the best I got. Yeah. Folks, thank you for supporting us in all the various ways. As we mentioned, we stream live on YouTube. We stream live on Twitch. We stream live on LinkedIn. We stream live in our own brains. On 3 of those, you can access it and support us in various ways. YouTube, you can give us super chats and stuff. You can also go to Twitch and follow us like Rooster Booster 82 did, or give us bits like Zoe Brings Bacon did, or even just give us a shout out like Jimmy the Brush did yesterday. Thanks everybody for supporting us in all the ways you can, including patreon.com/DTNS, or perhaps may I interest you in our store. Please exit through the gift shop. You can find all kinds of wonderful DTNS items that you can justify your support with. Like, I didn't just give them value for value. I actually got a mug or a Scott Johnson designed glass to drink my root beer out of. Man. You need that in your life, folks. Or maybe a Roger Chang sticker. Just imagine if you have a Roger Chang sticker looking at you every day going like, hey, you know.
Those are going to be collector's items.
I guarantee. You could put the Roger Chang sticker on the mug. And then make yourself a root beer float.
Listen, you know what? If you don't like me, you could call it someone else. You could call it like the Dave sticker because it's generic enough that it should blend in with most people.
The Dave sticker.
What happens if you put the Tom and the Roger stickers like stuck to each other?
Then you have to kiss.
Yeah. Okay, don't do that. But do go to dailytechnewsshow.com/store and check out what we have to offer.
Roger says, what's wrong with that idea?
I'm not sure how to take his objection, honestly.
Honestly, the one thing you'd be upset about is because you can't stick that sticker on them.
You're a very handsome man, Roger. Just, I'm married, so, yeah.
So am I. So
exactly.
What's the problem?
It would be wrong.
Yeah, well. Okay, you can watch us live Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 2000 UTC. Thanks to everybody who does join us live every day. Always good to have you. And a big hand wave to all of those who catch up the next day or maybe even a couple days later. We take you one and all. You can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live. And we're back doing it all again tomorrow. Talk to you then.
The DTNS family of podcasts, helping each other understand.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.